we did last time we met as far as items of discussion. Just got some things I want to make y'all aware of this time and a few things we want to talk about. We'll, I had some more ideas about the cleanup matters and, we'll talk about that when we get to it. On our water crisis, it looks better today. Rodney's been keeping me posted as we gain ground, and we've also heard from the rural water folks today that many of their people are coming back online today as the water flows. And we haven't filled up the Baggett tank yet, but I think those lines are going to fill up first, and then we'll start gaining volume there. But our other tanks are looking good. We gained a lot of volume last night in our other tanks in the western area, so feeling much better about our water supply and the fact that we're gaining ground. As Scott pointed out a few minutes ago, they found a few more breaks and have been repairing those, so we're still trying to make sure that we have tracked down all of our breaks. And when I got home last night, when I got home last night, I got a call from Kenneth Cochran, our area commissioner, and he said that he had his equipment and men sitting ready at our disposal this morning if we needed them to call him, and he'd send them right over and work with us as long as we needed them. I appreciate that of Kenneth. Also, Mayor Coburn in Hackleburg gave me the same call last night, and he said he had 2 men he could free up today to help with our laborers here, and he was going to send them over. But things got better during the night, so we didn't call them in. But come on, sign the book before you sit down. You might, I don't know if anybody brought your mail or not.
They do not.
Well, you can reach it now. You can say that if you want to. Anyway, nice of those people. Another omen to us today, Mayor of Birmingham started a water drive on our behalf today. Us, Reform, and a city in Mississippi that were out of water. The city of Birmingham reached out to us this morning, and the city manager called me and said Mayor Woodfin had started a water drive on behalf of the people of Hamilton. So others care about you when you think they might not, and I let him know that I wanted to send a direct message to Mayor Woodfin thanking him for that effort, and I'll follow it up with a letter, of course. And I don't know how much water we're going to get, but according to him, we may have enough water to float the city away when they get through delivering. He was reaching out to some trucking companies and some companies that had lots of water, and he said, we're going to bring you a load of water, a lot of water.
How soon before boil advisory expires? I know you have to send out bacteria tests and get them back. What's the time frame?
Rodney was in touch with ADEM this morning on that subject, and they want some more testing to be done before they remove the boil order. It's still in place and will be until ADEM lifts it, but we'll have to do required testing according to the protocol that they offer.
How long does that take?
Testing's pretty easy. You just look for bacteria in your water and that kind of thing. They can identify it easily. So it's not a long process. The boil order could be lifted before the week's out for that matter, but we'll have to have pressure in all the lines that we serve before we can consider even asking for it to be lifted. But the pressure's building as we speak. So in our water crisis, we have somewhat recovered for the city as far as we know. All the city clients and customers are back online today with water and water pressure enough to run their households, and we're hoping the rural area will report the same by tomorrow, that they're all back online. So been pretty trying on everybody, but we think we've conquered it. Uh, it's more a freak of the weather than it was bad equipment or bad management or bad uh, uh, maintenance. These lines that broke were serving the folks just fine until the cold came along and broke them. And at the point that leak that we couldn't find until yesterday, we'd been looking for over a month. We knew there was something wrong, that our tanks weren't filling up properly, but we'd had an expert leak locator that serves this region in Hamilton twice looking for that same leak. And Brian Loden, who had retired from our system about a year ago, found it yesterday. He just had a suspicion, and he went and looked, and there it was. And it was going down a ditch. The leak wasn't identifying itself because it's hid in riprap, and then it was going right down a culvert and then a ditch, and it didn't show as a leak, it showed as a branch running away. So
Man, that's a blessing.
we were fortunate to find it and get it repaired yesterday, and that was our main problem, I think, in filling up the Baggett tank. And we had known, Rodney and I had discussed it over and over, and I said, find that leak before hot weather when the water demand's high, because we've got to get that tank back up to standards. And as you heard from Rodney last night, he believes our 4-inch feed lines that going out to those tanks in Weston are not adequate for the new customer base that the Rural Water's gained, and they're about to put 12 new customers on, and 2 of the customers have chicken houses, which take a lot of water. So, and they've been crying for water for a long time, but finally got enough grant money to take the lines to them. Now it's up to us to supply the water. If we want to be the supplier for Rural Water, that's something. You know, we got a lot of blame today on the social media for being the whole problem of the thing, but we want to still love Rural Water. But if we can't serve them adequately, you know, we'd want them to look for a source of water that can make them happy. We're not trying to make them unhappy with our operation. We enjoy selling them water and being a provider, but we took a lot of blame on social media today, more than I thought. The blame was on the ice storm, not on the city of Hamilton. But the way it came off today, we were the ones to blame. So I didn't really care for that too much, to be candid with you today at this table.
How much do we charge them for, I guess, by the gallon? How, do we know?
I don't know.
The contract was in place long before I got here, and it's coming up for renewal. And you remember how much?
No, sir, I don't remember.
Was it done during your administration or while you were a councilman? The agreement.
It's probably been longer than when I was mayor. I honestly don't know. It's been a long time.
I don't think the initial rate's ever been adjusted. That's something that, you know, after we adjusted rates to household customers, we talked about our commercial customers. That one item that Tammy brought up to us 2 or 3 times. Let's look at our commercial sales rates and see if we need to make adjustments there. But we haven't, and that's something we could study on and talk about in the near future, because I think that contract's actually up for renewal. But, you know, I don't mind taking blame for something that we're guilty of, but, you know, when a freak storm comes through and puts you out of water, and then
It's why our own page is important, that we can help curb some of that.
Well, we need to encourage our department heads to
Use
to
it.
get with the mayor and get with Wayne and use that
Make
Facebook
public
page.
statements, and that might curb some of that before everybody gets an opinion and starts.
Right.
But that's what, Facebook is good at times, but man, it's awful at times too. It just goes both ways.
Right. But it don't hurt to communicate.
It don't hurt to communicate, you might stop some of it, you know, ahead of time.
Any
that's a good
information
idea.
On, you know, a lot of people on social media were saying, why don't they turn the water off to let the tanks fill up. Is that how it works? I don't understand that being the way it actually works.
Well, there's probably Hamilton may have a different setup than any other city may have, in that we have tanks in line, goes from one tank to another and to another, and some of the water that's pumped into tanks going this direction never go that direction. You know, we finger out here in the middle of town to several directions. We go east to our tank out there. We go to Rabbit Hill. We go to the tank in Pikeville, and all this stuff goes in a fingered direction. And Rodney knows a lot about it. And I don't know all about it, but I know the water that goes west kind of goes in a sequence to Mitchell Hill, then on to the west, what we call the western tank that's there at the Church of Christ up on the hill, then to Baggett.
It is, that's what I thought, just shut it down and fill them all up, but the way he explained it, it don't work that way.
But what Rodney was telling me today,
Spread out.
the water manager for the rural water said the tank the Baggett tank's not gaining water. But they've got a tank in the hills that come up, when they come off the Baggett tank, they go to their water tank. They're further out in the country with their tank. And water is bypassing the Baggett tank right now and filling those lines, those household lines. So it's going through the meter. We're getting the count on how much water's going through there, but it's gonna fill up all those empty lines before it starts filling up the Baggett tank. So
Makes sense.
that's the way Rodney explained it to me today.
And hopefully the county don't have too many leaks either, when, you know, the water.
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem. There could be a lot of leaks on their end once
Yeah.
they
And
start getting water and it's broke, they didn't know it, you know, so.
And we're gonna offer our men to help them patch their leaks so we don't lose more water. Once the water gets in their lines, they're gonna find out how many problems they've got in the rural water system. And they've got several miles of lines that's gotta be inspected too for leaks, so we don't wanna build it up and then lose it again. So we're gonna help them if we can to repair their lines now that we've got ours in pretty good shape. We're gaining lots of ground, but we don't wanna lose it through their lines now. So, we're offering our men to help them. They incurred a bill yesterday for pallets of water, household water. The rural water system has incurred that bill, and I think we ought to help them some with it. I don't know if we need to eat the whole bill or if we need to just share in the bill, because those households were in need of water. And the water went to the outlying fire departments that serve those rural regions, Bird and Scottsville and other places that they could disperse water to yesterday. EMA director called me and he said, not bringing any of this water to Hamilton, I'm taking it on to the rural water customers. So I hope that word's out today and the people that needed it have gotten water. But
You never did hear the amount, what that
I
amount
haven't
is.
had I don't have a bill on it yet, but I think we need to decide whether or not we feel up to helping with that bill or paying any or part of it or all of it. I don't have a recommendation, but I just wanted to ask the question.
I think we need to. We need to chip in.
Okay. We'll try to get y'all word as soon as we know what the bill is. I don't have the. Has anybody got Eric's number on your
I
phone?
have Eric's.
Call Eric and ask him, does he know how much that water was?
It's ringing. If you put it on speaker.
Is it on speaker?
It is.
I don't know how that goes back.
Hey, Ross.
Hey, it's Bob. How are you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
we're in a meeting. I didn't have you programmed into my phone, but Ross did. And, we were wondering if you had any invoice on that water that we purchased yet.
I don't have one yet. I talked to Darryl today about getting an address for him. And now, Mr. Page, the county already paid for some of it. They paid for four pallets that we picked up down at Shoppers Value or Super Value with the grocery store there in Hamilton.
Okay.
But what we picked up at Hackleburg, we don't have an invoice yet.
Okay, we're somewhat interested, as a matter of fact, we're very interested in chipping in or helping with this bill. The city of Hamilton wants to be a part of this, and we feel, you know, that it would be a good thing for us to do.
Yes, sir. Well, it's going to be roughly $2,000 total. I think there was $837 what we bought yesterday down at the grocery store there in Hamilton, and then what we picked up at Hackleburg the other day was a little over 12, maybe 1247, and I'm just throwing numbers out.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little over $2,000, maybe $2,100 total.
Okay. We'll discuss, we don't know if, at this point, we hadn't got to the point that we're saying we're gonna pay the whole bill. But we know we're gonna do something, so we'll let you know soon, and we'll find out who we need to reimburse, you know. Is it your office or the county that we need to be talking to?
It would be Jan. If y'all just run that through her over at the water department, and I don't even need to be involved in it whatsoever. I was just helping get it lined up and get it moved out where it needed to be.
Well, a big thank you for that help and all the other things you've done for us through this crisis.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you saying.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
See you.
Send that number to you if you don't care.
I'd be in favor of just picking up the tab on that
Yeah,
one.
that's what we're talking
Yeah.
about, yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's what I'm in favor too.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll find out then the exact amount and who the refund needs to be to, and we'll get something from them to offset our check to show what we paid for, but I'd be okay with just taking care of it. I don't have a lot more to add. I'm just so glad that we're pulling out of this. I can't tell you how nervous I've been about it and how upset I've been, but I'm not laying any blame. It was weather related. I don't think we can point a finger at any individual and say it's their fault. I think it's just something that happened and it set up. I will tell you that we've got some needs where the water department is concerned. And as Rodney pointed out last night, those 4-inch lines that pump our water to the west are just not going to be adequate anymore. They may do the job by running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days in the year. But if we ever have anything that slows us down, it really takes a long time to catch up. We need bigger feed lines going west, especially since they're adding more customers on the other end of our line. And
Did
it's
you say
just,
something about we also replacing the booster or?
well, the pumps that go there go with, you know, they would fit probably. The housings for those pumps probably is either 4 or 6 or whatever size feeder lines. We need at least 2 6-inch lines leaving there instead of 2 4-inch lines. And those pumps were put in 1964. That's the year I graduated from high school. And if you can do 55, 56 years ago, you know, they let me out of high school, thankfully. I begged the principal to just go ahead and pass me, and I wouldn't be any more trouble to him. But they finally let me out in '64. But, anyway, it's some old equipment we're using, and the electrical panel on that thing is atrocious. I went with Rodney and looked at it about 3 or 4 months ago.
Have we ever looked at doing that, as far as cost wise? Has it ever been looked at in the past?
It's expensive, but
I can imagine.
it's expensive. And everything you do that's like this is expensive. It's like when our generator wouldn't fire the other day. They were rebuilding that big transmission line up there north of Hamilton from the substation coming in, and they had to shut down 238 households, and it cut our plant off. Well, our generator didn't fire to run our plant, our purification plant. We didn't know why. We got a mechanic to come up there and look, and he said, basically your engine is shot. And it was 30 some odd years old. So that's a $74,000 fix.
Is that something that's not, tested
It runs,
once every
it runs,
3 months or something?
it runs 2 cycles a week.
Oh, okay.
It runs every week, 52 weeks out of the year, 2 cycles.
The generator?
The generator kicks in for 2 cycles every week.
Okay. Didn't know that either.
But it wouldn't kick in when the power went out. For the first time ever, it failed. But the
And no one has to
engine,
manually
the
do anything.
internal parts of the engine's full of diesel fuel, raw diesel fuel,
Right.
and it's supposed to be dry in there. And the mechanic said that indicated a severe problem.
And those just kick on automatically. No one has to manually do it.
Automatic.
Okay.
It's fully automatic, except when it went down, it didn't kick. Well, we got them to bring us a rent unit till we could get it. We knew we had to have one on standby. Well, the heater in that rent unit wouldn't heat the thing up enough for it to fire, so we had to get a mechanic to come back and fix that thing that warmed up the engine so it would fire easier. And we finally got it running, and we let it run several days, even after the power came back on. But we need something that's good and constant and ready at an instant notice, because it's that important. We got one source of water, and that's the Buddy Hatchie. We got plenty of water, but we got an old plant, and we got to make sure it's well maintained. And so that's why we're going to be asking for a generator pretty soon, and we're pricing a natural gas generator, and they're recommending a Cummins diesel instead of a Detroit diesel. That's a Detroit diesel up there, and they're wanting us to look at a Cummins diesel, but we're wanting to compare it to a natural gas generator and see what the cost difference is. And Heath is trying to get us a price on that as we speak, and he may already have it to Rodney, but I don't have it here today. But that needs to be remedied pretty soon. And we can rent that unit, but that was a temporary fix, getting that one brought in. But like I say, Rodney's gonna prepare us all a list to look at what he needs done. And as I said last night, there's been a lot done already. And everything we've done, believe me, is expensive. Nothing comes cheap when you're talking about wastewater. Our electric bill was $34,000 on our wastewater treatment plant this month. That's not peanuts for a city like us. So it don't usually run that much, but it did this month. And it runs 30 or above every month, but 34 is a little extreme. Next item, I had a call this week from Sibley Oil owner, and we had a written agreement with him for tax abatement to build 2 C-stores in Hamilton. And we had signed an agreement to do tax abatement. He was to build a store. We told him we'd do a tax abatement if he'd build a store at our exit 7. So he purchased the land, but he had this lot down here, and he wanted this store so bad, he went ahead and built this store down here. Ran into a lot of complications with the foundation. He had to dig out muck that was in that lot and refill it with rock, lots of loads of rock. He wound up spending about $3.2 million putting this station in. And never did build the other one. He bought land but didn't build the other one. When he bought the land, he didn't know that Lowe's was coming to town. And he finally told me he just didn't want to go heads up with Love's out there on the interstate. So, but now he's back requesting the abatement on his expenditure down here. And it's, since we did that abatement agreement with him, we've turned various businesses that came to Hamilton down on abatement request. And to make a new agreement that wasn't like our original agreement with him now is gonna open up for us to do abatements for every single new business. There'll be a list of them coming at us if we do this agreement.
Is he wanting a portion of the sales tax back or all of it for a period of time, or what's he asking for?
He wants the same agreement basically that we've got with Love's.
Oh, I got you.
Which is on diesel fuel though, right?
Pardon?
The
Lowe's.
agreement we have with Love's is on diesel fuel tax only, is that correct?
That's right.
Well, he don't sell them.
He don't sell any, hardly any diesel out of, I guess.
I would think it's gonna be a very, very long agreement if we do a diesel agreement. I don't think he's heavy in the diesel
We get the sale.
business.
There's not an abatement, so.
No, that's right, we get all sales tax on those.
We get sales tax on everything except diesel down there till they recover $2 million. And they call that in their package a capital recovery. And then we get all the taxes on Love's once that's recouped. And, I'm crazy about Mr. Sibley. I appreciate him as a merchant, but I think it's just putting us in such a liable position to try to offer this abatement to him and not expect to have to offer it to everybody else that's moved into town about the time he came or since he came. And I just...
And I appreciate that, you know, him opening that station.
Yeah, he's
across
got a
from
beautiful,
Walmart.
he's got a
And I
beautiful
mean,
facility
it's a
there.
great facility, but, you know, also in the original agreement was the second one out of,
Yeah.
the other exit, and so.
We implied when we made this agreement that we were really trying to do this to get him to, that was an incentive for him to help us develop Exit 7.
Right.
So that's why we did the agreement at all. It was strictly an agreement to accommodate him some for helping us out there on the interstate. An exit that basically hasn't developed yet. And the infrastructure is out there on the east side, especially. The west side's not covered well yet with water and utility, but the east side of I-22 at Exit 7 is prepared for development. So, I mean, it's like we lived up to our original agreement, but now we're amending his side of the agreement to accommodate him. And it's just, to me, it looks like we're just giving in somewhat, and then we're also opening up for other customers or other merchants to want the same agreement.
Did we give him an abatement on sales tax?
We haven't done anything for him
Okay.
because he didn't do the agreement that we agreed upon.
Gotcha.
So whenever he put this one in, there wasn't an abatement on
There's
that one,
only-
right?
You had to
Previous.
have both of them done
Both,
within
okay.
18
It
months.
was a tandem deal,
Qualify for the tax
two
back.
stores,
Gotcha.
And the only reason we were doing anything down here is because he was helping us out there.
Yeah.
And now we didn't get the help out there.
Out on Hempstead may take incentives for some kind. It may not be much, but I'm like you, that was we upheld our agreement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Y'all did.
Yeah.
yeah.
I just wanted y'all to know that I've been asked for that. I've talked to Scott about it. Our attorney, he reminded me of how many people we turned down on abatement requests in this previous months and years that we have been talking abatements to help us grow. And he said, get ready, you're gonna have to do one for every single business that's come here if you do this. And I can see that point. And, you know, so I just wanted y'all to know the request is out there, and that's why I put it in today's deal. And y'all mull on that one, and let's we might rediscuss it if you have anything you want to bring back to me on that. Retail Strategies has sent us a proposal. This little book that you got here tells you basically what they do for businesses, the recruitment, how they present themselves and present your city to potential players out there in the retail business. They recruit everything from motels to restaurants to retail stores on our behalf if they work for us. The very last page tells you what kind of investment we got to make to get their services. It's a 3-year agreement that can be terminated any one of the 3 years in writing. When they invoice us, we got to pay them within 30 days, or we don't have an agreement. We paid $45,000 for our first year with them. Now they're saying we can have 3 years at $40,000 each. And we've stayed with them 1 year and then pulled out on our last. We had this agreement, and for some reason or other, our council just didn't feel like we got enough meat in our first year, and they'll even tell you in this proposal that you usually see the fruits after a year, maybe 18 months into the agreement, you start seeing the fruits from their work. And so,
It'll be over a year, I bet you. It won't be quick.
yeah. So if we invest, we know probably we'll be fortunate if we get anything for our first year's investment with them, except getting our name out there to these retail places. And it'll be up to them to look at the statistics that they gather. They're able to obtain a lot of statistics about your city. They look at your tax revenue, they look at your activity in your stores. The way they do that is through these right here. They count how many of those things have been through the door at Walmart, and they know how many people shop in Hamilton, different people. And
They're very efficient. I don't know if they're worth $40,000 a year.
What did we pay to C3? When we was-
25,000 was our ante to them.
If
Was
they-
it 30 or 25?
Have they hired
25,000.
anybody yet, Mayor? I
Pardon?
mean, have they hired anybody to replace?
I told them we wanted to meet the replacement,
Has it been hired?
and
She-
they said that they would. The last I heard, they had asked David to stay on till they got his replacement, and I don't know if he's still with them or if it's kind of freelancing right now. I don't know what the operation is. I've still got the board together, but I don't know who's the director is right now.
One thing to take from that 40,000, that they would be working strictly for us. I mean, that's a big
Yes, that's a big.
plus for us,
It is.
whereas C3 is working with,
Everybody.
yes.
But it's a C3, I mean, aren't they going after different clientele? Or is it,
A lot of
or is
industry-
C3 about the same, educated,
C-
you know?
C3
C3
is
is
basically for
industrial.
industrial
Yeah.
That's what I
recruitment.
thought.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is more retail.
Retail. Correct.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah,
we've had, these folks we've had hired before for 1 year.
Yeah.
Did they produce anything?
Jacks.
Well, they took credit for the jacks. We had one of our councilmen just basically said, y'all didn't do anything for jacks. I helped negotiate that deal. And, you know, pretty well called them out on it, but, and that's something that they had remembered when they come back to the table here, the other day, is that they had some pretty harsh, words in the boardroom, over them claiming one thing and maybe one or more of our council taking issue with them over it. And, so, I'm not saying, they didn't do that, but I know that, Jack's representative and the landowners had some direct contact, you know, over the phone before the deal went down, and, but they said that they introduced Hamilton, to the Jack's people, and that they actually physically recruited them, and, then maybe they went to the side and made a deal for the land, I don't know. I just don't know exactly how that went down, but at any rate, we got a Jack's during their time with us. And he said the taxes off of Jack's alone would more than pay the fee that we paid them that year.
But with C3, what have we got off of it too?
There's the rub. We were with them basically 7 years under the direction of David, and we didn't see a single plant as far as an industry. We didn't get any. He said he helped us some with Cytel. He took some credit for that.
David Brown was,
And he was
And they did
showing
do
some
that.
properties,
That was before
some commercial
C3.
properties like plant sites and things like that. He'd have clients here to look at our industrial park, and he was doing that, but
He did, and he brought several people in to look at Hamilton.
Yeah.
I was very
But
aware of
nobody
that.
ever
They just didn't.
took the bait, so to speak. They
Right,
didn't
they
come
didn't
here
come.
because of the visit.
Well, in the past, with C3, we asked to see how the money was being spent, and we never got anything back. If I remember from past administrations, that was always hard to.
That was a question that came up several times. What are we getting for our 25,000? How do you, let me see your books, your budget. And that was never revealed. And
Right.
so, administrative expenses is basically what we learned that the budget was made up of. And, we never got to see any numbers, physical numbers.
Very good organization and probably did a lot of good things, but, which I've always supported when I was in council or mayor, and the problem they have is trying to satisfy 5 or 6 mayors, commissioners, 40 council members, and, you know, they're just pulling us in many different directions. If you do something for Fayette, then why don't you do something for Marion County?
Yeah.
You do something for Winfield, well, you know, we want Winfield to be successful, but I'm for Hampton, I want Hampton to be more successful.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's always that pulling that they get pulled by everybody, because we're contributing too, and you're contributing too, and you're contributing too, what are we getting?
Right.
It's a
Gene
constant
Gene
thing.
Sanderson and I went to Tiffin Motor Homes, and sat down with Tim and begged him to consider a branch right out here in our industrial park. I said, I'll show those coaches to the world right out here by this fence. And he said, we're not trying to shun you guys. He said, but look, I don't want to put a plant in Hamilton right now. 105 of my most important folks drive from Hamilton up here every
That's
day.
Exactly right.
Some of
And
my
that's one
top
reason
management
Winfield got
folks
that
are right out of Hamilton, Alabama.
well, you know, that
I
whole
took a
deal,
pretty good beating.
the
from
whole
Winfield,
deal,
but they
original
actually come
deal.
already going with that.
you know, Winfield about to get the dust on that, and if it wasn't for Tiffin's coming in, saving
And
Yeah.
he did tell me if they branched and decided to do any other products, they'd consider Hamilton. He was nice to us, but he said, I've got 105 of your best coming through my doors every morning. He said, I'll be cutting my throat to put an operation in Hamilton, every one of them going on transfer. So, I mean, he made a lot of sense. It made too much sense, as a matter of fact. I didn't want to hear his story. Gene and I were there trying to get us a plant from Tippin because they had the money to do it. Since then, they've sold their company. You know, for goodness sakes, they sold out not long ago and for 300 million or something. The numbers are too large for me to count without taking my shoes off. But anyway, they really made a lot of money, and then they had a lot of money. We knew that when we went to see them. We sure would have loved to have a spinoff from them in our nice industrial park down here. And believe me, it's one of the nicest around. But so far, we've been able to get Tom Bigby in there, and we're proud of them and the Freedom Fiber they bought. But we want somebody that's manufacturing out there. We want a center out there that distributes products to all areas. We want something where we can give jobs to people,
Some kind is good.
and that's what we really want. I want y'all to think about this right here, and if more than two of you want this on the agenda for a vote, you let Angela know, and she'll put it on the agenda. I'm not saying it'll make the agenda without you notify her that you want it, bring it to a vote. But mull it over in your mind and keep it in mind, 40,000 a year is what it's gonna take to get them to work for us. And we gotta measure,
Or we still, when we asked to join C3 too,
well,
if you consider,
I-
C3.
I'm not letting one way off the other. I want us to consider both,
That's right.
for their merits. I'm not saying to join either, but I want us to consider both. I had one man who is in industry. He said, and I had another man that's in state government say, you're playing a losing game, not supporting your industrial board and your industrial recruiter.
I think it's important.
And you know how many votes we had when we asked about staying in the last time? 0.
I know.
So it's going to be a mindset with you guys, and you got to weigh it in your mind as to how much you think it's worth to us. And when you vote, I want you to vote your heart. I don't want you to vote for me. I want you to vote what you think it's best for the city, as I do in every vote we make. But let's weigh these options and think about what we think that it'll amount to if we were in there. And keep it in mind, the board is they're looking for someone that they think can lead this thing forward. And David's retired. They're trying to look for a deal closer. They're emphasizing to recruit being a man that can close a deal, not just talk about an industry. They want somebody that can close the deal. And a lot of times having your strategy and your answers ready for these people, if they look once and don't look back, then it's probably your fault.
We really don't have any available buildings, do we, Mayor?
No,
Yeah.
but we're willing to build
I think we
one.
need to consider a spec building someday. If Alabama Power still does that, they did
Yeah.
that, and that's how we had the place for Tom Bigby to go.
Yeah.
That building
I
sat
think
there
they
for
give
years.
you a
Yeah.
5-year period to pay the interest on it, then you gotta either fill it or purchase it.
And we wind up selling it to them for $500,000,
Yeah.
what we owed on it, and then
Yeah.
they spent probably $5 or $6 million on it
Yeah,
after they got it, so
Yeah.
they were tickled to get that place.
Did every city pay 25,000 or is
It's based on population, I think.
yeah. Some of them pay as low as 5,000 to be in.
We were probably the largest contributors, maybe.
The county pays an equal amount to us, or maybe they pay 30,000 to be a member. I think that the county pays 30,000. Us and Winfield maybe pay 25 each, and the other cities pay a smaller amount. And I'm not sure how many of the cities are in right now.
A lot of
But
them's got-
it was a big loss to C3 when we didn't re-up.
Yeah.
We
It
were,
looks like
we
if we
were,
were to do something like that, we could go in with a plan and a purpose and a package, you know, with some kind of incentives, things like that. Something that they could go and say, hey, here's somebody that's wanting to play ball.
Mm.
And just something to think about there as well.
we've got a little package, industrial package, together.
Okay.
And most of the time, it includes, if it's a worthy company, we give them the land that they're gonna build on, and we do some tax.
That as well.
If they're furnishing so many jobs, I believe we do abatements. Is that kinda correct, Angela?
Occasionally, yes.
We got a little package together. We hadn't had a chance to use it, Scott, so we're a little rusty on what it
We'd
says.
like to see that.
Yeah, well, we
Yeah,
can
there's-
dig you
I'd like
one
to see
out.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
we
Yeah.
can dig you one out and
Yeah.
let you read it, cause it's right interesting. It's a pretty good little package.
Sure.
The city developed it some years ago, and,
I know a lot of people sort of put all their mindset and emphasis on the automotive industry, but it's just like Troy, last month picked up a
Gun manufacturer.
gun manufacturer because
Understand, man, get-
I know, I've talked to some people that are in the know and said there's at least 12 to 15 gun and ammunition manufacturers up in Ohio, Michigan, and those areas that are wanting to move south because the laws are changing up there and it's just getting a lot more difficult to do
I sent out
business.
20 letters to the top 20 manufacturers recruiting them here when I came into office. I got 2 responses thanking me, and I described our area, and they said it sounded like a beautiful area of the country if we ever, and it wasn't probably 2 months after I wrote the letters to one of the companies I wrote had filed for bankruptcy, you know. You get the Excedrin headache about that time. But nevertheless, I made that effort, and I had in mind to get us a company that builds either handguns or rifles or whatever here. And but I had one letter saying that if we decide to build a new facility, we'll consider your area. So I mean, but I haven't heard anything else.
Yeah.
But I did take the time to go online and look at some of the more popular, I sent them out to some of the top of the line handgun manufacturers and rifle manufacturers. And they were located all over the country, some of them in New York, as you say, some of them in the middle of the country.
How much land we got available at the I-22 industrial park?
We've got right at 3 acre, well, it is a 3 acre parcel.
Total, how much total land we got available to us to be able to use?
Industrial park.
Yeah,
Oh,
industrial
210,
park.
210 acres.
Okay.
That's what's left after Tom Bigby took their part out.
How about
It's
the
got
exit?
infrastructure there,
How about the exit?
out past the, out past the Tom Bigby there.
Just west of Tom.
Yeah.
We, we got 3 acres by the hotel down there that I was
Right,
mentioning.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
That's
And
just
then
a
another 200
that's
or
separate ownership.
Okay.
And we got 210 over there in the industrial park for development. We got a big enough space for another hotel or maybe a hotel and a restaurant down there. That 3 acres
Oh,
is,
yeah.
is adequate for both.
It's 7, 11, 14, 16.
I had a franchisee call me this week. I mean, brand name, big time. He swore me to secrecy, or I'd tell you today on camera what it was. He said, I better not hear a peep out of this till I come back to you. But he knows up close and personal the franchisees that own that have the rights to some of this, and it's big time, folks, and they're looking at us.
We're gonna get it.
He said if you breathe it and call a name, it's off. But he's putting the package together.
Put it on Facebook. We'll be quiet.
But if we got people calling us, maybe we don't need to spend that $25,000 to $40,000 if they're calling us. I mean,
That's gonna be developed out there, ain't there, doubt in my mind. It's gonna snowball.
it's gonna help develop the other
I
end.
just wish we'd get something on exit 7, I
Yeah.
tried that. We'll get that exit lit, if we ever get it developed, they'll light it up.
Yeah.
Spike Brown said they would light it up, but they had to have development first. They don't do the, you want the lights first, but they won't have, it's gonna be dark till we get some kind of development.
Yeah.
But whatever do, man, they'll light this thing up.
Where we're short on lighting is, on 17 and out there at, what we call Fox Crossing, exit 7, and, I'm almost wanting to light at least one of those exits. Just makes sense to me. On our cleanup Hamilton, I kind of promised you guys a list. The ice storm took precedence. I've been out looking, and I've found some good spots. I've got a call in to Scott Hunt, and he tried to call me back, and I missed his call. I was getting some questions answered about fencing for parked cars. We got at least 4 sites where there's lots of cars that stay there all the time. I'm sure they're rotating, but there are 4 sites on main thoroughfares that without privacy fencing, and I'm looking into that right now to see how much enforcement we can put on that, as well as the abandoned properties. A lot of these are abandoned cars. They're cars that aren't gonna move till somebody buys parts off of them and they junk them out. They've been there too long. And so I'm trying to get the rule on that, and I'm very, very interested in if we can enforce privacy fencing for all these parked cars, I wanna do it. And I just don't like them sitting out in the open. I think they have to go behind a fence or they're going to have to disappear. That's how I feel about them. And I've looked at them, I've looked at Rodney's flea market. His son lives in Birmingham, never down here to see about it. It's growing pine trees nearly twice as tall as some of the buildings. It's not kept. It needs to be bulldozed down, set on fire and burned or something. It's not gonna be used again, and it's a real eyesore. And I wanna get a letter out to him. I got word today from Teron Nance that Alicia, he's helping Alicia out here on Lover's Lane, up next to the Housing Authority buildings. Those 2 bad houses, they're taking those down this week. He was looking for a place to take the debris. And he gave me the contractor's name that's gonna be demolishing them and hauling them. He wanted me to give him a permit to dump that debris. And I checked with Scott. He said, you don't have authority to give any permit for dumping in the city limits. He said, you don't have a clue what kind of materials are gonna be in that load. If it's hazardous material, you're just digging the city a hole, and you're gonna be putting it on private property. And he said, it's too big a risk to take. And he said, you don't have authority to give a permit. So I'm gonna have to advise Teron to take it probably to some other location. I don't know. the deal is, it's, when he told me I didn't have the authority, that's exactly what I believed. Do you ever remember writing a permit when you were mayor for somebody to dump house material on private property? I think that would be out of bounds, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was so thrilled that
glad
I
to
got the
talk about it.
news the houses are coming down, and then
Me
the
too.
cold water was dashed on it, and I said, oh no. I'm being asked to break the rule to get rid of them old houses, so I can't do that. But
So Teron's over it, or having somebody do it?
Teron's helping her, he's overseeing it, and they're probably family or friends. I think that's his wife's sister. Anyway, he's helping out on it, but I've got Lexi Aycock contracted to demolition it,
It's awesome.
and both of them, as a matter of fact. But he was looking for a place to put the materials. He said it's gonna be covered up with soil, but I don't know how quickly it'll be covered up, and I don't know what they're covering up, so I just don't think the city can do the permits. Scott told me I definitely couldn't. He said, first, you don't have the authority, nor you don't have the means of inspecting the material that's in the loads. And he said, you got 2 strikes against you up front. So, anyway, I'm gonna, if he asks me the questions, I'm gonna have the phone numbers of the actual landfills that take that kind of material. There's one in Douglas Springs and one in Russellville that take that kind of materials. I don't know what happens if someone says, I've got a gully down yonder and I want you to bring that material, I'm trying to fill it up. If they make a private treaty away from me,
Yeah, I
I don't know what the rule is there.
Who owns the house next door, the one that caught on fire? Or is that,
That's one of the ones that's coming down.
oh, okay, that one is.
Yeah, them two side by
Beside
side.
the
One's
green one.
masonry and one's wood.
Yeah.
partially
okay.
burned
Yeah,
out.
but I knew the green
Those are
ones.
the 2 that's coming down.
Okay, good.
So that'll help the looks of that street, by the way. I mean, that's a good thing. If what they're doing is great, I just wish we could, find them a place to put their debris. I don't know how I don't really know how you get rid of debris.
They've torn this one down right beside CIS
Yeah.
like today. I
Really?
wonder where they're,
Tore down
that
today?
shocked me, I thought.
I think Jeremy's tearing it.
Yeah, the Hodges house came down today. The whole house came down, I think, the same day. I don't know who's hauling it away. Do you know who the contractor is?
We could probably ask Jeremy, he might
Yeah,
have
Jeremy
some.
told us something.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
I think they're about to add on up there, I think.
Tim Kerr's gonna be bringing us, the lighting situation on some of his fields. The boil water order is still in place. I had some questions about the water boil order today, about who enforces that, ordinance or that rule, whatever it is. It's ADM's rule that if you lose pressure in your lines, you have to put the boil water order out. We said it's a health department issue, and the person who was bringing me the news about what restaurants are doing said, no, it's a policing issue. You're supposed to go and police these places. So I have never put a boil water order out in my years here, and I don't really know. I told him I'd do some research and try to find out whose responsibility it is. I think it's our duty to warn the people. I don't know how rigid we get with the enforcement. I know when I brush my teeth every morning, I'm still rinsing my mouth with tap water. Oh, I may get sick. Anyway,
So I get to rest. So I'd like to.
I'm so glad it's still there.
Me too. I bet.
But
We ain't gonna-
anyway, I don't really know the answer, and but I guess I need to find the answer. It's probably my
We
duty
looked
to
at,
do that.
and look- see what area of town is zoned a certain,
We've got that
business.
map.
Where's that map
downstairs.
at?
It's downstairs on that wall beside
I'd
Sheila.
like, yeah, I'd
okay,
like
I
to
see
see
that.
it. Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Dr. Haygood will join us at the March 15th meeting. He was unable to make the first one, but he was gonna come to our Tuesday night meeting, and the weather got so bad we couldn't have that meeting, so his schedule didn't fit till the 15th, but he's taking us up on our invitation for the 15th. Les Walters has had a great thing happen to him. He's had a Lifetime Achievement Award given him by APA, and I think we need to have him over and do a proclamation for Les. I want us to invite him to our next meeting and recognize Les. He's an outstanding individual who's served a long time in our community and did a heck of a job for us, and I want to recognize Les. And we'll try to get Scott to word us up a good proclamation to declare, and we'll want to get him recognized by our paper and all that stuff.
You want him to try to come to this meeting this coming Monday?
I'd like to have him here if we can get the proclamation ready. At least by the 15th, if we can't get it ready for this Monday. But I want us to recognize Les, and he's very deserving. I don't have anything else today. If y'all got anything you wanna bring up, we'll listen, and if we,
I'm kind of looking at what's gonna be on the agenda, other than the minutes. Do you want Andrea to try to come back? at
I
that
do, I
meeting?
want, she's got to meet with us, we've got to get some direction on this project, at the house project, because that's something we need to
Retail
put together.
strategies on there, you're gonna go with them?
I wanna wait till, I wanna let the council mull this over.
Okay, so wait a little
If
bit
any
on
two
that.
of them ask you to add it to the agenda, that means we got a motion and a second, and we'll put it on the agenda. We won't put it on till we hear from two of our council.
Are we considering Sibley's request? Does that need, Jim
No.
Sibley's tax abatement, does that need to be on there?
No, I don't think it made it to the agenda.
Okay. Can y'all think of anything else that I'm forgetting that we need to put on there?
I'm gonna leave that, if you hear from two council people that they want that on the agenda, they'll let you know, otherwise leave it off.
Man, let's get somebody to look at these red lights. I swear I get
Yeah.
every day. From all the way there, they're just out of sync or something that you'd just be
You
surprised.
stay about
People gripe.
25 seconds longer going south than you do if you're coming
They're
north.
just not in sync. They're all messed
Well,
up.
I mean, those,
With the main red light.
Yeah, the main
You've
red
got, when, let's say you're coming from my house, I guess, what is that, north, alright. So, if the main red light is green going north, that very next red light needs to be green too, to flow the traffic. What's happening is you got this light's green, and that light's red, and nobody's going anywhere. And same with east-west too with the Yamaha light. But that
You just
definitely,
gotta get
that
somebody
flow
in
needs
here.
to,
Especially in the mornings and everything.
especially in the.
Whoever was looking at their streetlights that Mike had looking at, there are 4 lights down by the old goodies, all 4 of them's out.
yeah,
And there's supposed to be somebody looking at them, but that same company can do these lights. They may need reprogramming, or Mike said they need new.
They're on timers.
They're on time-
trips or
The
wires.
reason we hadn't put coils in is they're fixing to grind this pavement's all to pieces.
Well,
It'll be
I understand
replaced
that.
this summer,
Right.
and they're gonna dig every one of them up.
Well, let's not.
And they're about
let's make sure we
$12,000 a lot to fix them.
get- Yeah.
And
Well,
we're
we
gonna
spend
leave
all
them,
that, then
we're gonna leave them on timers till they get pavement done, then we'll
At least I
we'll
can
put
tell
the
somebody
coils
something.
in.
That's right.
yeah.
I mean, I get it all the time. all the
Oh, I
time.
mean, hey, got that ugly on Facebook back about a
Yes,
year
ma'am.
ago about
We had
that.
agreed last night about, putting that out for bid for paving that service road in front of
Yeah,
Love's and Huddle House, all that, right?
yeah,
Who do we need to contact?
Luke,
Okay,
he'll,
That's what I thought, but I didn't know.
he's seeing that through for us, so.
Have you already contacted him? or-
I haven't, I hadn't told him today that we voted to go ahead with it.
I'm trying to get to the TV station.
He'll get all the bids.
15 minutes.
Okay. Are you gonna let him know, or do you want me to?
We
send
want the
him?
bids open to here though.
Okay.
We want him to have the bids turned in and we wanna open at this table so we'll know
Brings me out every day.
who's in.
The one first
Now
barber shop.
there's, you know, you can turn,
You can turn
left
left
on
on
the
yellow.
yellow,
Yeah.
yellow flash. Can you
Right.
do that the main right, too?
Yes.
Some of them are on loops and some of them are on timers.
At this main, at the main red light?
We'll do all the immediate improvements we can, but we don't wanna put those coils in and then about to pave these roads. These roads are atrocious out here. It won't be long till they'll put a new surface down.
Where it blinks yellow.
No, it's not that kind
Not the main, because only one direction moved at one time.
Just swore today that.
Once we get the paving done, I'm for putting it back on coils.
Yeah.
I think it works better on coils than it does on timing. All of them's on timing right now.
Well, they're only threads, it's all messed up.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
all-
Yeah.
You gotta wait for a while if you leave it.
You guys just don't have any patience. No.
That's why I joke.
Slow down and smell the roses.
I like to joke. You get one
I was gonna get body slammed the other day over these red lights.
You get my age, you can meditate in one night.
I'm too big.
Thank y'all for coming today. I appreciate every one of you.
Appreciate you.
Let's stay together on these projects, guys. We got lots ahead of us this summer. We got a lot of work ahead of us. Oh my goodness.
We're gonna have a lot of good projects next 2 years.
Let's-
It's gonna be
Looking
good.
forward to it.
It's gonna be good. Angela, we'll make sure we got some money.
Me personally, no.
The sales tax is looking good, Mayor, ain't it, down at Love's? I mean, as they come in the next few months, we know we're gonna see an increase in our sales tax.
Hadn't seen any tax reports yet. We're anxious to get them.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
Can't wait.
Before I get the
I wanna just see what it does for
I
us.
mean, it has to take.
It's two seats.
I mean, cause every time
Yeah.
I go down there either in the mornings or in the afternoons to pick my little boy up.
There's a mob down there.
I mean, he can't hardly get in the parking
I'm
lot.
Well,
telling you.
in theory, and
And of course, the bottom way thing, every time I pull in there, I think about that, I was like, we gotta get that done.
Most of the cars are from out of town.
225 state because you don't run it all the way down.
I'm going down there all the time.
So you're,
It's an
I go by
amazing
that,
thing.
but I don't.
That Arby's. Well, I went down there the other day. I hadn't tried them at all.
that's a
I was gonna get me and Kathy just a roast beef sandwich.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/49 County News TV.